Hello everyone and welcome to the Geo Traveler Historia Scale. The intent of these videos is to explain why each character has achieved the score that they've been assigned. It is not intended to be a discussion about artifact builds, but rather an exploration of the character's raw potential based on their stats and capabilities, so that when you get your hands on these characters, you'll have a better idea if they will suit your team comp, or, better yet, if they're a character you want to build your team around. Also, the entire scale is not taking into account the existence of constellations, as it is very possible that you could play Genshin Impact for extended periods of time with little or no constellations. The exception to the rule here is the Travelers, as they have the only constellations which are guaranteed through the storyline, making theirs realistic for comparison. Now, without further delay, let's dive in. Starting with attack. Geo Traveler's base stat is 41, just like that of Anemo Traveler, and as such, receives the same score of 3 points. For normal attack DPS, the Geo Traveler and Anemo Traveler's basic attack animation are essentially the same, but due to lacking the passive generating an AoE swirl on the final hit, the Geo Traveler's base attack only averaged to 67 damage per second, earning Geo a 2. Geo Traveler's charge attack is also shared with that of the Anemo Traveler, and also receives the same score in this category, 2 points. On to Starfell Sword. Geo Traveler's main skill is effective at dealing damage at an average of 945 damage per target, and earns a 4. Finally, Geo Traveler's Elemental Burst, Wake of Earth, deals on average 2,168 damage per target, also earning a 4. All of these tallied up earns the Geo Traveler a 15 out of 30 points. On to durability. The Geo Traveler's base HP and defense, again, are the same as the Anemo Travelers, and as such, scores a 4 out of 7 in both categories, for a total of 8 points out of 14 in durability. Next we'll move on to utility. Starting with travel add-ons, the Geo Traveler can use Starfell Sword to aid in climbing awkward surfaces or areas which are hard for other characters to access. Additionally, Starfell Sword can be used in combat to climb out of enemy attacks intended to trap the player, helping Geo Traveler pick up 2 points here. Next is puzzles. Around the map of Liyue, there are many pressure plate switches, which are activated only when 2 or more switches are occupied at once. Geo Traveler's Starfell Sword again is useful here, earning 1 point. Next is Elemental Breaker. Geo abilities as a whole are useful for breaking rock crafting materials, as well as rock walls that frequently cover chests around Teyvat, which earns Geo Traveler 2 points. Geo Traveler earns 0 points in Weak Point Strike and 1 point in Opportunity, as it can use its Elemental Burst to force enemies off a cliff. On to passives. Geo Traveler's main passive, Frenzied Rock Slide, generates an attack on final normal strikes, dealing 60% of attack as Geo bonus damage, earning 3 points for its relevance to combat. Next we'll move on to the Self-Reliance category. The Geo Traveler can generate space, and also line of sight enemy attacks with Starfell Sword, and can also use Wake of Earth to push all nearby enemies away, creating a wall protecting you from harm. Additionally, Geo's Charge Attack and Starfell Sword produce knockdowns. All these tools add up, awarding 4 points. Next, Geo is melee by nature and provides no heals, earning no points for normal attack range and healing, but earns 2 points, being able to use non-elemental normals as well as charge attacks to damage enemies of the same element. Lastly, Geo Traveler can use their surroundings as well as enemies to extract defensive shields in a solo situation. As there are 7 elements that can yield separate defensive advantages, this metric caps out, awarding 4 points. Now, onto synergy. The Geo Traveler lacks any crowd control generation as a result of reactions, has no known interactions with other care skills, and does not provide healing, earning 0 points in these categories. However, Geo does have the ability to share both Starfell Sword and Wake of Earth's benefits with other characters, picking up 2 points. And, lastly, for buffs and debuffs, Geo can synergize with a max of 3 other party members at a single time, allowing you to choose 3 shields to generate at will, scoring 3 more points. All of these tallied up gives Geo Traveler a strong score of 24 out of 30 in utility. Now we move on to the final category, reactions. As discussed in the previous video, each reaction is evaluated from 0 to 3 points, based on how many skills a character can use to produce a given reaction. In order to keep the crystallized reaction from being unnecessarily punished, it also has its own metrics, similarly to Swirl. Starting with Crystallize itself, Geo Traveler earns 2 points here, as it can generate crystallized reactions with both Starfell Sword and with Wake of Earth, but not with their normal attacks. Next is Shield Generator cooldown. Here, the lowest cooldown for generating crystallized reactions is evaluated against a weighted scale, generating between 1 and 6 points. Here, Geo Traveler scores 5 points, as Starfell Sword has a relatively short cooldown of 8 seconds. Now, moving on to the reaction area of effect metrics. Starting with normal attack, Geo Traveler's normal attack, as stated earlier, does not generate elemental advantage, and as such earns 0 points here. Next, Geo Traveler's Charge Strike also has no elemental advantage and earns 0 points in this category as well. Starfell Sword, by contrast, however, has a 360-degree reaction on its targeted location, earning 5 points. Lastly, Geo's Elemental Burst, Wake of Earth, also generates a wide 360-degree area of damage, picking up an additional 5 points. All points in reaction tallied up awards Geo Traveler 17 points out of a maximum of 26. Finally, everything discussed up until now added up awards Geo Traveler with a total composite score of 64 points. Here you can see where Geo Traveler stacks up against its Animo counterpart. Last video, Animo Traveler earned a composite score of 68, but a sharp member of the community on Reddit reminded me that small green fans exist around the world which produce updrafts when exposed to Animo elemental abilities, thusly giving Animo Traveler 1 point in the puzzles metric under utility, bumping them up to 69 points. As a final note, Geo Traveler suffers a little in the damage category compared to its Animo counterpart, with lower attack numbers in most categories, but it makes up for it with a strong score in utility and slightly above average score in reactions. These numbers make Geo Traveler a great selection for a support role, providing your team with a reliable source of element-absorbing shields on a short cooldown, so that you may continue to attack without fear of retribution, while simultaneously providing tools which gives easy access to puzzle solutions, damage avoidance through line of sight, and easy climbing workarounds. With that, I've reached all I have to discuss in this installment of the Historia Scale. I hope you found it to be useful. If you've noticed something that you think I've left out, and I'll be more than happy to discuss it with you, and even issue a correction to the scale if necessary. Finally, if you did find this video useful, please think about leaving a like. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you're notified when my next video goes live. Thanks for watching Teyvat Historia. May the 7 guide you, travelers.